Hi there, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm Blondie.
And I'm T.
And welcome to another episode of our craziness.
It's starting to get that way, isn't it?
It is. It really is. My gosh. Okay, so getting ready. I went downstairs to make some tea because I thought, you know what? Tea is soothing. It will help our throats. And I thought I'll get into the lavender honey that you got for me for my birthday and the lavender tea. So right? So I'm putting it in the little, what do you call those things where the little loose tea container?
I have no idea what those are called.
Well, I was using those and I opened it up and smelled it and went, oh, it smells so good. And then look at the front of the label. It's sleepy lavender tea.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'm thinking, well, that wouldn't make a very good episode with us snoring.
Yeah, people may not even notice.
Okay, that's just a sad state of affairs. Oh my gosh. So I scrapped that. So we have orange tea.
I love orange and spice tea. It's one of my favorites because my other favorite is peppermint.
I do like peppermint too. But that lavender honey, isn't that lavender honey good?
It's wonderful. It's yum, yum, yum.
So what do we have in store for part 2 this week?
Well, we're going to wrap up this one and all these loose details. We're going to tie everything in a nice, neat little bow. It's going to be a good one.
Put it all in one of those nice little loose tea containers.
LTCs, that's what we're going to call them. LTCs.
Look at us. Okay, patent that. Trademark it.
So let's just get right into this and let the grim begin. So in the last episode, we left everybody with, after moving, changing jobs, and getting a new phone, poor Dave realized that his new online dating interest turned out to be his crazy stalker ex-girlfriend, Cari, pretending to be somebody else. I still can't get over the fact that with all the people he could have chosen to connect with online, and I'm assuming there's thousands of them, I don't know, he decided to pursue her. Even if she made the initial contact, what are the chances that she's the one out of all the options that he picked? To me, this kind of validates their insane attraction.
Well, it also seems like he has a type, so she probably played to that.
True.
So that's the route that she took. I just still can't get over the fact that he's still trying to find the love of his life. Yes, I did the air quotes. Online, he's very persistent. But the extreme level of stalking would seriously scare me straight away from those apps.
Absolutely. Geesh, I'd be like, never again. Definitely never be the way I'd want to meet somebody ever again.
I'd start hitting up the bars again.
I'm not getting the impression that he's looking for love, though. I'm getting the impression that he's looking for like a casual hookup with someone or someone's that he can trust. I mean, you have to be able to trust someone if you're going to have them over to your home. And like with Cari and Liz, he even left them alone in his house after a very short amount of time. And in all fairness, he does seem to be making that clear to the women that he pursues. So I'll give him a little credit for honesty.
True. But I think that you also just need to have a level of security as well. Keep them at an arm's length.
At least at first, because in both of these relationships, like they were in his house, overnighting it. He was at work. It was just a lot really quick.
He's trying to get what he wants, I guess.
Yeah, the familiarity, I guess. Okay, so Cari, now having all of his new information and leaving Dave unable to hide after all of that effort, she goes at him even harder. But this time she intensifies her obsessions and also targets his ex, Amy, the mother of his children. And Cari starts sending Amy a ton of messages as well. She gets really vicious and starts making threats to slit Amy's throat. Amy was terrified. And as if that's not enough, Cari also starts including Dave and Amy's children into her threats and talks about killing them as well. Boy, she's really a fan of this slitting your throat thing. I bet at this point, Dave is just wishing he had moved in with her and saved himself all this hassle.
Hindsight at its best.
Right? Amy says that one day when she was at the local park with her children, she received a message from Cari detailing everything that she and her children were doing. She told Amy that she could see her son on the slide and her daughter on the swing. She knew exactly what they were doing at that very second. With those disturbing little details, Cari wants to ensure that Amy knows that she's watching her. So Amy immediately grabs her kids and gets the hell out of there.
You think?
Right? And this is so cruel to make Dave's ex and his kids feel so unsafe while they're just trying to be kids and do family stuff. If your obsession is with the father, why must the kids suffer? She's really a sick person to be getting her jollies off of this.
And I still keep wondering, what does she do for a living? I mean, she can't have a job since it seems like her full-time job is stalking Dave and his family. I mean, I'd almost want to look for her at the park and call the cops and say, she's threatening me.
I'm with you on that one, because as this goes on, I don't know why, and maybe they've done it and it's just not focused on. They're just not stopping what they're doing, walking outside and finding this woman and beating the crap out of her, because that's what I would do.
With your Rambo headband.
Right? Be all up on that. And if I remember right, I think she was an IT person.
Oh, so she could work remotely.
I don't know, I'm guessing, but she did have a job.
Okay.
Cari goes on to tell Amy that she's going to sneak into their home and slit her children's throats while they sleep. I mean, again, what's up with the slitting of the throats? One night, Amy finds her young son sleeping on the couch with a baseball bat. Amy asks him why he's sleeping out there with the bat, and he says, "Because I need to protect my family."
Oh, poor baby. Do you know how old their kids are?
I know Dave and Amy were together for 12 years, and this is, of course, right after they had broken up, so I'm guessing he's under 12 years old.
Oh, poor little guy.
How sad. Dave realizes it's only a matter of time before somebody really gets hurt, and he needs to protect his family. So his father purchased him a gun. It was a Smith & Wesson 9mm automatic. He took it home, but kept it on a high shelf inside of his closet, safely away from the children, but easy to grab if he needed it. Of course, he didn't want to have to use it, but he would without hesitation if necessary.
I would too.
Oh, absolutely. The investigators, Dodie and Avis, who decided to dig deeper into this situation, say what was most mysterious in this case is that even though she was communicating, nobody had physically seen Cari Farver in person or heard her actual voice in over 2 years at this point.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was actually wondering the very same thing, if anybody's heard from her.
No, she's just texting and emailing. And the way she disappeared was very unusual because the condition that she left her apartment in after she disappeared, everything she would have needed for her day-to-day life was still in her apartment. She didn't take any clothes, she didn't take her medications, no personal items. Even her coat was still hanging on a chair, as if it was casually tossed there to be used again as she was heading out the door. There was nothing to suggest that she was leaving for any lengthy period of time, and there were only 2 transactions on her bank account a couple of days after she went missing, but nothing since. Investigators knew that she would have needed money to be gone, so this was very, very suspicious. Cari's mother, Nancy, says that when Cari left, her dad was very sick, and that Cari would have never left knowing that he was going to pass away. And eventually her father did pass. 2 or 3 weeks after the passing of her husband, Nancy says she had a very vivid dream of her deceased husband telling her not to worry about Cari anymore because, quote, "Nance, she's with me, and it's okay," end quote. Nancy says she clearly saw her husband's face during this message. It made her very sad, but she now knew for sure that Cari was no longer alive. But she needed to stay focused on taking care of her grandson, Max, Cari's son.
Okay, that's just creepy.
Isn't it? That's a lot creepy. But I believe stuff like that can happen. At that moment, her husband gave her a much needed gift of knowing that even though their daughter was dead, she was at peace and that they were together. I think that's sweet.
It is sweet. And whether it was her dream from her subconscious or actually a message, I think you're right. It was much needed.
Much needed. And the peace, and I'm sure the, anxiety probably went out the door with that. So good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators Dodie and Avis have come to realize that it's definitely a possibility that Cari didn't disappear on her own. So they decide to come at this from two directions. One will do all they can to prove that she is still alive, and the other will do all he can to prove that she is dead. But now they're finally looking at this through the lens of a possible death investigation. And the only way to figure out how she disappeared is to find out who is sending all the ominous messages.
Ooh, the plot thickens.
It really does. I like these two guys. They're really digging in.
And this was a cold case that they came back to, correct?
Yes. And it was still active because they were still being harassed, but they decided to dig deeper because of the whole Cari still not being seen thing.
Good for them.
I know. I like them. So the first thing they do is reach out to their in-house volunteer, Tony Cava, who is also their county IT supervisor. Along with his regular job, Tony is paid $1 per year as a volunteer special agent to help with digital forensic investigation cases, and they want him to find the IP address of where the thousands of messages are coming from. There are lots of them, but as he's trying to narrow down his search, he realizes that the only way he can sort through the information is to write the program that he needs specifically for this case. Doesn't this guy sound like a borderline genius?
Absolutely. I mean, and they're getting quite a bargain for a buck.
Right? He's just a good guy. His customized program identifies the IP address that is used the most by the stalker. When they follow this lead, they realize that that IP address is coming from the home of a person that also works for the county as a network administrator, and Tony is his boss.
Wait. So Tony is the IP guy's boss.
Where the IP address is coming from. Yes.
Right. Wow.
I know, what a twist.
Mm-hmm.
So Tony is shocked. Nobody expected that. And when they question him, he claims the messages are not coming from him. And the only other person that uses his Wi-Fi at his home is his on and off again girlfriend, who had been living with him ever since her house had burned down. Liz Gallior.
So the crazy is actually someone else.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that is a huge twist.
It's a huge twist. Investigators are shocked and quickly realize and confirm that Liz has been sending all the messages to Dave, Amy, Cari's mother, Max, and even to herself. She was the evil behind all of it. But does this mean she has also perpetrated all the crimes on herself as well? And if so, where's Cari?
So she basically burned her own house down and killed her own animals. And you're right. If she's capable of that, what else is she capable of?
Yeah. Can you just imagine what they're thinking after all this time? This is crazy.
Wow.
Now, when Dave hears this news, he is stunned that Liz would be capable of all the things that she had done to him and to herself. It doesn't take him long to realize that Cari is the victim. And at this point, after all this time, nearly 3 years now, she must be dead. He feels terrible about this.
That's his first thought. That's quite an assumption.
But imagine this hitting him and him realizing if it's not Cari, where's Cari been for 3 years?
Believe me, I get that. But
Yeah.
he went from her being missing to all of a sudden she's dead.
But he's in the loop that she's not in touch with her family. She's not in touch with her son.
True.
I think my mind would go there.
True.
But how sad, right?
Yeah.
First she's your enemy. Now she's a victim.
And the one that you thought was the victim is now the full-on stalker, do anything lady.
Right. She's a psychopath. So when detectives Dodie and Avis now start investigating Liz, they go through all the evidence, including her phone that had been downloaded 6 weeks after Cari went missing. Amongst her pictures, they found a photo that she had taken of Cari's car on Christmas Eve of 2012, which was shortly after Cari went missing and before the car was recovered by the police. When they recovered the car, the vehicle was processed after being found in January of 2013. And only one clear fingerprint was discovered on a mint container in the console. Now they make the connection, and the fingerprint belongs to Liz. They still don't have proof of what happened to Cari, but they have solid evidence that Liz was in the car before it was recovered. So they don't confront Liz yet, but they put a tracking device on her car. They quickly find out that she's circling Amy's house, Dave's ex, and the mother of his kids on a daily basis. Now they're very concerned for Amy's safety.
Isn't this where they'd put like a 24-hour surveillance on Amy and the kids?
You would think, but they're smart about their next steps. And putting an officer there would have ruined that. So hang tight. It's coming.
All right. I'll sit in my chair in peace. Let you continue.
These guys are actually really, really bright. Following this discovery, one night, Dave realizes that his gun has been stolen. The only person who would have taken it would be Liz. So now he knows she's armed and things are only going to get worse. I know there's probably a reason, but I would have had 12 more locks added to my door. I would have boarded up my windows, or at least put those little sticky things in the window, the frame to keep it from opening, and keep her from getting back in. I know it's not on purpose, but how does she keep getting access to his place?
I said it last time and I'll say it again. Where are those Ring cameras? With the lights? I realize it's not going to protect him, but at least it might deter Crazy a little bit if she's being recorded and they know she's there.
Yeah, something. I mean, just some kind of thing to deter her because she just did whatever the heck she wanted to do.
Yeah, you're right. And how is she getting into his house so easily?
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, there's just so many things you can do so a person can't physically climb through a window or get through the door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blaming him, but it's like, come on, Dave, kick it up a notch. Now, Crazy Liz ends up making a very dramatic call to 911, reporting that she was attacked in a public park that just happened to be right next to the sheriff's department. A woman came up from behind her and shot her in the leg. Officers and an ambulance arrived and the cops looked for the woman, but she was never found. The circumstances were very strange. She really was obvious doing this right next to the sheriff's office to ensure that she wouldn't die. Too obvious. I think she's losing her edge.
Yeah, but I think shooting herself, she's really doing the most.
Jeez, she's beyond crazy.
It takes a special kind of someone to shoot yourself.
Yeah, and all the other stuff she did. Once Liz recovered from the so-called attack, the sheriff's office interviewed her. She claims that she thought it was Amy, Dave's ex, who had shot her. The investigators see what she's doing. She's trying to set up Amy for shooting her and killing Cari. So they play along and get her to communicate with Amy and try to get her to confess. So what do you know? Liz does exactly that and gets a written confession from Amy. And it's literally an email that says, quote, "I shot you at Big Lake Park because you wouldn't stay away from Dave." End quote. Wow, that's pretty convenient, right? I mean, this lady is not the brightest star at this point.
Well, hell, we could have sent that. Did Amy also claim to have shot JFK too? Since she's confessing and all.
I mean, why not take her all the way down? I mean, she's responsible for everything.
COVID.
Elvis. Where's Elvis? Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And it was exactly what they asked for. I mean, they said, "Can you do this?" And she came up with it the next day, straight to the point, no beating around the bush. Pretty stupid.
Isn't she helpful?
So helpful. So here's where I was trying to tell you that they were being smart and thinking ahead. The detectives developed a plan and advised Dave to move back in with Amy, his ex, to protect Amy and his children. So he does this immediately. The detectives knew that as soon as Liz found out that he moved in with his ex, that it would send her spiraling. And it did.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't tell Dave what they were doing. They just told him it would be smart for him to move back in and protect his kids. So he doesn't even know about this.
So he's being set up too.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's the bait.
Yeah, but in a good way. So Liz immediately calls the detectives and vents about Amy, saying, quote, "She's still not arrested. She gets to shoot at somebody, and then she gets to kill another person, and then she gets to move in with Dave, and she gets to be free, and you guys aren't arresting her." End quote. But they claim they can't touch Amy because they still don't have enough evidence against her.
I have two thoughts on this. First of all, she said something about kill another person. Did I miss something on that?
I'm just quoting what she said, but at this point, I think everyone is assuming that Cari's dead. So she feels comfortable trying to make Amy out to be this crazed killer who obviously shot her and presumably killed Cari too. She's thinking ahead to try to come out as the innocent victim in all of this.
I guess. But my second thought on that is she's sitting here laying out exactly what is going on. You know, that she's given the police all this stuff and she's not arrested. She moved in with Dave and all this stuff. So right there, she's basically saying, yeah, I'm stalking, for her to know all that information.
But she hasn't caught on to that part. That's what I'm saying. She's being really stupid.
Yeah, she is. Like I said, her quote basically laid out exactly what's going on in Dave's life, Dave and Amy's life. How would she know that?
Well, it gets better.
Okay.
I think she's so convinced that they think she's the victim that she's very comfortable with just doing whatever she thinks she's got to do.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. In her brain, in her twisted little mind, she's thinking, well, I've already proved to them it wasn't me, it's her.
Exactly. I'm definitely looking very innocent here because I'm smarter than everybody else. Right? Famous last words for people who go to prison.
Right. You stick with your story, sweetie.
That's right. Keep talking. Just keep talking, honey.
Right.
So now the officers realize that they can trick Liz again into possibly giving details about what actually happened to Cari. And, just like we were saying before, this works too. For being as smart as she's been for the last few years, she gets real stupid real quick.
She's so helpful, but I honestly think at some point now she might be panicking.
I'm not sure if I'd say she's panicking. I really think she thinks she's in control.
Oh, maybe.
I think she just wants it over with. She wants Amy to be arrested quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Liz, pretty much on request, starts creating and forwarding messages from Amy. But this time, details about Cari's murder start pouring in. The emails from Amy are confessions that Cari was stabbed in the chest and gut inside of her own car. Then she was covered with a tarp in an empty field and her remains were burned. Detectives knew this wasn't Amy. This was Liz writing to herself, posing as Amy. But it gave detectives the details that they had been missing. So Cari's car was immediately processed for blood and a huge stain was found once they removed the upholstery on the passenger seat. It was tested and unfortunately, yes, it was Cari's blood.
Wow. And how convenient that Amy is confessing to all of this stuff.
I know, right?
Right. So do you know when they removed the upholstery? I mean, wasn't her car found a while ago?
Yeah, and the first time they processed the car was when they found it in January of 2013, right after she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
And they found nothing on the upholstery fabric. But after getting more details, they realized Cari was in the passenger seat of her own car when she was stabbed by Liz. They had assumed she would be driving before, but she wasn't. So they had focused on the wrong seat the first time around. And that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, though, they lifted the upholstery and finally saw the stain underneath the passenger seat.
And you're right. They assumed she was driving. I mean, why would you be in the passenger seat of your own car?
Exactly. And they didn't even know she had been killed at this point. You know what I mean? So they didn't do a thorough search is my guess.
At that point, she was just missing.
She was just missing, right. So when asked if he had any electronics that may contain evidence regarding Liz, Dave went to his storage unit and found an old tablet. Deleted information was found on the tablet, and the detective soon realized that that tablet had the SD card belonging to Liz from around the time that Cari went missing. 11,000 images were found, and most of them were selfies of Liz.
Thousands of selfies? Sheesh. So besides everything else, she's a little bit of a narcissist.
Yeah, I mean...
Who has 11,000 selfies?
Yeah, that's about 10,990 too many. But hey, you do you, girl. But after painstakingly looking through all of these images, one caught the detective's eye. It was a picture of someone's foot with a tattoo on it. The foot had venous marbling, which is what happens to a body when the veins become visible following death. The detective quickly realizes he's seeing a picture of a dead body, possibly Cari's foot. Once they confirmed that Cari had a tattoo of the Chinese symbol for mother on her foot, then they knew it was her. Liz had taken a photo of Cari's foot and left it on this memory card.
As clever as Liz was, I can't believe she took a picture of the dead body. That wasn't very smart. Or at least a part of the dead body.
Yeah, it was just of like, you could see like the pant leg and the foot, but yeah, not smart at all. And then remember, she took the other picture of Cari's car too. So how can she be so smart and so dumb at the same time?
Obsession.
Now they finally had the evidence they needed to arrest Liz. When interviewed, Liz vehemently denies being in Cari's car and claims that she's never even seen Cari's car. But they have the proof now that she's lying with her prints on the mint case in the console and the photo of Cari's dead foot. Now this case is finally taken to trial. As far-fetched as all of this sounds, with someone keying their own car, stabbing their own clothes, and burning down their own home, killing all of their pets, amongst so many other things that was supposedly done to Liz, with the cherry on top being her shooting herself in the leg, the prosecuting attorney knew she had her work cut out for her to try and make all of this craziness seem viable. Because it's like she was so unreasonably crazy that they were afraid that she might actually get away with it, because it's too hard to believe someone would do all of those things to themselves.
I still think that in her twisted mind that Liz believes she is actually a victim.
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe she's a victim because Dave didn't give her the attention that she needed. Maybe a victim, but she couldn't possibly think like she didn't do all the things she did. She's on top of that.
I don't know. You just never know what's going on.
We can't figure out crazy. We've said this a million times in this show.
We can't figure out each other. So how are we going to figure out crazy?
This deadly fatal attraction turned out to be a nightmare for so many people. Nobody had seen or heard from Cari since November of 2012.
Wow.
But now the family was finally able to prove that Cari was a wonderful person and a great mother, thanks to Detective Jim Doty, Ryan Avis, and Tony Cava. Liz's attempts at making her into some kind of crazed killer stalker did not succeed. Liz was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Thank God for that.
Exactly. And now I feel bad that I assumed that Cari was all that crazy.
But every single thing led to that. She did a good job, which is why we were saying, how can somebody this smart be this stupid at the same time? She actually did a good job with that.
She did, because I was convinced it was Cari.
I was too. I was too for a while. But jealousy is nothing to mess with. It can definitely get vicious and evil.
It distorts your thinking completely, obviously.
It really does. I looked up some jealousy quotes, and I found some that I thought were fitting here. I'm just going to run through a few of them with you.
Okay.
Jealousy is a mental cancer. B.C. Forbes.
Makes sense.
I totally agree with that. The jealous are troublesome to others, but a torment to themselves. William Penn.
I think in this instance, they were troublesome and tormenting for everybody in the story.
Totally agree. Jealousy, that dragon which slays love under the pretense of keeping it alive. Havelock Ellis. Jealousy is, I think, the worst of all faults because it makes a victim of both parties. Gene Tierney.
Makes a victim of both parties? That's an interesting take.
Well, the victim of the person you're jealous of, and make yourself a victim by being insane.
So if I'm jealous of you, then both of us are victims?
Yeah, look what happened to Dave. She was jealous of Dave, and look what happened to him, and then look what happened to her. They're both victims.
Yeah, true.
I like that one. And here's my favorite, though. Jealousy is just love and hate at the same time. Drake.
That's very poignant.
Good job, Drake. But what a wild story, right?
Very. At least it ended with the person that was doing all the stalking in jail.
Absolutely. But all of these people that she focused on, I mean, that's some trauma that they're going to have a very hard time getting over. I mean, how do you ever trust again?
Exactly. How do you trust and not look over your shoulder all the time?
Well, they won't be looking over the shoulder for her, but, I'd be sitting there waiting for the next nice person to go nuts because, you can't trust people anymore. You think they're one thing, totally turn out to be something else.
Exactly. And we're going to leave a little piece of advice for Dave. Stay off the dating apps.
Dang, Dave. Seriously. Just let it happen naturally.
Right. Go to the bar, go to the supermarket, go somewhere else, anywhere else.
Be single, go to a convent.
Well, that's a little extreme.
I'm just saying, I'd be there. I'd be there at this point. I'd be like, I'm not doing this again.
Poor Dave.
Poor Dave.
Well, thank you for bringing the conclusion of the story to us.
You're welcome. And I hope people don't start with this episode. If you started with this episode, make sure you go back to the last episode because a lot of details are there that would explain a lot of what we just talked about.
Right. No, you have to listen to the first one.
Definitely.
Thank you for listening. And remember to take care and don't forget to let your grimaginations run wild. Bye.
Bye, everybody. We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, Twitter at grimwitwithdimwits, and Facebook, Grimwit with Dimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review. 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.